Welcome back. Now, most of us would have pets, and a number of us would prefer to keep dogs as pets. But how many of these pets are properly registered or trained? Today, we are talking about whether it is necessary to have your dogs trained and what kinds of dogs would be most suitable to your needs. We have with us today the president of the Universal Schutzhund Club of Trinidad and Tobago, Aaron Thomas, the president of the Federation of Canine Registration in Trinidad and Tobago, Colin McLeod, and a professional dog trainer and dog enthusiast, Alan Mitchell. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to AM Prime.
Good morning and thanks for having us.
Nice. So let me just jump things right off the bat there. In terms of Trinidad and Tobago and people wanting to own dogs, do we see it as a common feature that, people get dogs and then they realize, it's difficult for me to really manage this dog because I didn't prepare adequately for the dog's arrival and prepare my family and so forth. Is this a problem that we're seeing, Alan?
Yes, well, it's definitely a problem. Most times, owners look at a dog and they like it physically, so they decide to get one. 6 months to a year later, they realize the dog is not suitable for them based on their lifestyle, their space, and then, of course, you have the genetic issue of the dog not being quite well bred. So there are a lot of other issues, behavioral problems that come with that. I think Aaron will speak about the genetic side of it.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, want to take a stab at it there one time?
Yeah, a lot of people before they look at a dog or a breed, they need to do their due diligence and research because all breeds have specific characteristics and they wouldn't be suitable for every home depending on the breed. Also, breeders need to be very responsible and advise people when they come to them about the traits in their breeds. And that's what I guess will help buyers also make a better informed decision.
And I know also, as we're speaking on the topic of breeding, that there are different types of breeders. Now, the average person may not be aware of these different types of breeders, or also even how to begin to engage a breeder, where to find information, and so forth. What can you share with us about breeders in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, breeders in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a spectrum of breeders. Just as previously the person you had on shipping said that it's a highly unregulated industry, the dog industry in Trinidad is also not very regulated. And as a result, we have what we call puppy mills, where people just breeding dogs for money, basically. And then you have the backyard breeders who don't look at pedigrees or anything like that. And then you have a few select breeders in Trinidad and Tobago that are actually what we would call legitimate, proper breeders that would do their due diligence and research and get the right type of dogs, the right type of bloodlines, the right type of genetics together. So that's the category of breeders we usually have in the country.
Understood. And Colin, on the issue of registration and microchipping. Now, first of all, with registration, why is it important to register your dog? Where does that information go? What use and of what purpose does one need to register? And we've heard about microchipping, but what exactly is it? What does it involve?
Okay, so firstly, microchipping involves you putting basically an ID tag within the skin of the dog, and it's a relatively painless process, and that serves as a way for us to identify your dog in the event your dog is missing, your dog is stolen, or it ends up anywhere where it is a microchip scanner is available. In relation to the purpose of registering your dogs, it is important to have your dog registered so that you know the lineage of your dog, you know who bred the dog, and as Aaron would have mentioned, it also helps you identify the genetics that would be in your dog, which would allow you to know what particular traits your dog may show as it continues to develop.
Understood. Now, Alan, in terms of training, there are some people who feel, well, that neighbor dog real bad. You can't do anything to save it because people just have that feeling or thought process when it comes to these animals, that it's like in some cases children, bad behaved. But is it that all dogs at even varying levels can be trained, or do you have to bring the dog only when it's a puppy in order to undergo training?
So ideally, it's better to start when the dog is a puppy. If you imprint the right behaviors, then you have a much easier dog to formally train. And yes, all dogs can be trained. The one limiting factor I would say would be if the dog is poorly bred, and poor genetic behavior is something that you can't take out of the dog, but rather something you just have to manage and use strategies to manage that behavior. Unfortunately, we have a wide cross section of poor breeders in many of the different breeds. So it is very common to see dogs that have weak genetics and would display, behavioral traits that are not desirable, difficult for training, but it can be managed to some extent.
Sure. And Alan, well, actually, Aaron, as much as we do have the pandemic upon us and social interaction is very limited, you don't have those kinds of outdoor activities as we would have had it prior to the pandemic. What activities do take place within the dog world, so to say, locally? Do we have shows here, events, activities? What trends are taking place in Trinidad and Tobago?
In the past, the activity was much more than I would say in the last decade. Different kennel clubs would have hosted different events at different times, but I would say safely after this pandemic that you will see an upsurge in a lot of different dog activities like dog shows. Working trials and all of that. I think that will eventually come about. What we at the Universal Schützen Club of Trinidad and Tobago, and in conjunction with the FCRTT, is hoping to do is to launch a canine good citizens test where we will be basically evaluating dogs, whether they be pets or otherwise, so that they will be able to have a certification saying that they are sociable and they could go out into the community amongst people, amongst other animals and everything. So we're looking at launching that in the future, and it's something to look forward to.
Nice. And well, how can people get in contact with you guys for services? So whether it's registration, microchipping, whether it's dog training, whether it's finding out about breeding and so forth, how do they contact you guys?
Well, we have, for the Universal Schützen Club, we have our Facebook page, which is the Universal Schützen Club of Trinidad and Tobago. You could always contact, or you can contact me directly. Aaron E.M. Thomas, that's my Facebook link. And FCRTT, also, there's a Facebook page with the FCRTT that you can contact directly. You could, so if you need any information, you could always message one of the pages and we'll have somebody responding.
So, well, guys, I actually want to ask you, moving forward, any kinds of videos, any kind of content that you have relative to these activities, feel free to share it with us because we would love to feature it on the show to at least build that whole interest in it, because what we found, a lot of people are at home, they've decided to take on pets and so forth, and now that they've taken on these pets, it's like, okay, what do I do now? How do I train? How do I consider registration? How do I consider all of these factors? So we at AM Prime would love to shine a light on the work that you guys are doing to help build that community moving forward.
And thanks for that offer, Declan. We'll definitely take you up on that.
Nice. And I do hope that you all are getting proper government support in these things, especially through Ministry of Sport, because this is, in some cases, people use dogs for sporting activities and so forth. But in other cases, I mean, companionship and so forth. So we hopefully will get to that point where, you know, that respect for the work that you're doing really is given in that regard. So, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know the time was short, but I think that we got a lot of pertinent information out of the interview, and I'm hoping to have you guys back on in the not too distant future.
Our pleasure. It was nice being here.
Excellent. And that was the president of the Universal Schutzhund Club of Trinidad and Tobago, Aaron Thomas, the president of the Federation of Canine Registration in Trinidad and Tobago, Colin McLeod, and a professional dog trainer and dog enthusiast, Alan Mitchell, speaking about more or less being responsible for dogs in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's how we wrap up our show for this morning. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Continue to stay safe, mask up, sanitize, social distance, and of course stay home if it's not necessary for you to venture outside. Looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow, and be sure to send us all the information so that we can feature it here on AM Prime. Have a great day, guys.